the chat? I don't want to interrupt.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Just write it in the chat. Let me
Okay.
know. It's always nice to know when you.
Yes. I don't want you to. Got it.
So.
Okay.
Anyway, good morning, students. I'm recording this class today for the Fabric Bifold Wallet. We're making this fun bifold wallet that has a snap closure and it folds up like this. And when you open it, it has card pockets and a zipper coin pocket. And it also has like a billfold. You can keep business cards in here. It's all fully lined. So we're going to be working on that today. This is, so I have emailed you guys a handout that says fabric cuts. You guys should print that out and use that as your guide on the measurements to cut all these pieces, because there's so many little pieces to this project. So go ahead and have that printed out, and also print out the diagram sheet. I also emailed you a sheet like this with measurements on it. You're going to need that as well today to do this. Today we're going to do the card pocket, and we're going to do the coin, the little zipper pocket. So I'll be referring to this as the card pocket and this as the zipper pocket. And then in the second session, we'll finish the entire wallet with the snap and the exterior, etc. All right. So I will also be emailing you after class a step-by-step instruction guide, and it's going to have some diagrams on it. So you'll not only have the video to watch, but you can also refer to the step-by-step guide. So I have Cherry here with me today. And so Cherry, you're going to go ahead and cut out the first piece, the 15.5 by 4.5. This is the card pocket piece. And I've already applied my interfacing. So you always want to, I'm going to assume you guys know how to apply interfacing. It goes on the wrong side of the fabric. So on the wallet cuts, the sheet that I've sent you, it tells you the interfacing measurements, 14.5 by 3.5. So you should cut out a 14.5 by 3.5 interfacing and a 14.5 by 4.5 fabric. So this is fabric B. So remember, fabric A is this fabric for the outside, and fabric B is the inside. Okay, so we're just working with fabric B today. So my fabric B is this black polka dot. And I'm going to go ahead and switch my camera so that you guys can see the close-up of what I'm doing. All right, so after you've cut out your card pocket panel, this big long panel, and apply the interfacing, you lay it wrong side up like this, and you're going to take a pencil and a ruler, and you're going to start drawing lines. So I sent you a diagram that tells you the lines to draw. So you can print that out and use that if you don't remember what I'm saying in the video. So the first line is 2.5 inches from the edge. So I'm measuring from the edge here. So 2.5 inches, I'm going to draw a line just like that. Nice and straight. It's not going to show, so I'm not really not worried about it. My next line is 1 3/4. So I'm actually just going to hold my ruler like this. One 3/4. The next line is 2.5. 2.5 again. Next line is 1 3/4. You just want to kind of make sure that your lines are staying perpendicular, because these are going to be the folds for your card pocket. And 2.5 again. And 1 3/4. And the last one should be 2 3/4. If it's a little bit less, like a 1/4 inch or so, it's fine. Mine is, yeah, is about a 1/4 inch less, and that's okay. And that's because the pencil lines kind of took up some space. So I'm not going to worry about that. So if your last distance is a little less, that's okay. So I'm going to put my ruler away. Now the next step, oh, actually you're going to need your ruler. And there should be 6 lines. So let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 lines. So I'm good to go. The next step is to fold these lines. So you're going to use your ruler and you're going to start at the first line again. And I'm using my ruler, I'm butting it up against the line, and I'm using it to help me make that fold. And I'm folding it in towards the other guys. And I'm just pressing it really good with my fingers. And then then I'm going to open it up, and then the other line goes in like this. Actually, sorry, yeah, in like this. And then I'm going to use my ruler again on the next line and use it as a guide to help me fold over into itself. And then I'm going to open up and fold on the next line back this way. So you're creating this like accordion pleat. I think it's pretty intuitive to figure that out. I'm just kind of making sure that the distance is right. And now I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to use my ruler to do this line. Open it up. And fold that one onto itself. This. So you're using your ruler and you're folding it this way. And then you're taking the second line and folding it in like that. So you should end up, when you turn it over, you should have 1, 2, 3 of these folds. So I'm going to go to the iron and I'm going to iron this. So I'm just kind of finger pressing it right now, and I'm making sure, I want to make sure the distance between my folds is the same all the way across. So I've kind of done that. And now I'm going to go give it a good press. So after I've pressed it, now the next step is to, I have this little accordion diagram for myself. I'm going to put that aside. So after you've done that, you want to check the measurement, the length of it. So the final height, it should be 4 3/4. So I'm going to measure it. Whoa, mine's less than that. Mine's like barely 4.5. So my measurements must have been slightly off, or I cut it a little bit off. But when you guys have finished folding it, it should be like 4 3/4. It needs to be 4.5. So you need to trim it down so it's 4.5. Mine is slightly less than 4.5. So I think what I'm going to do is just change one of my folds to make it longer. See if I can get away with that. Okay, now mine's 4.5. Yeah. So if yours is more than 4.5, just trim it off the bottom, this bottom edge here. So the top is where I'm opening up my folds. If it's more than 4.5, trim off the bottom. If it's a little less, then just adjust your pleats. I'm going to go back and iron it. So the next step is to go to the sewing machine and sew the folds down. So I'm going to use my pins. Check it one more time. Yeah. To hold, put some pins in to hold the folds. Oops. I'm not attaching the folds to each other. I'm just pinning the fold. So now you're going to go to the sewing machine and you're going to top stitch on the top of the fold right here. So this, I'm not sewing the fold to the back. I'm just sewing the fold to itself right on this stitch here. I'm going to do 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. And then after I do that, I'm going to stitch these sides down. I'm going to do an 1/8 of an inch stitch, just a little 1/8 of an inch basting stitch on the sides, and that's going to hold the folds together. So first I'm going to stitch a top stitch on these folds going this way, and then I'm going to do a base stitch 1/8 of an inch from the edge on both sides here going down. So I'm going to go to my computer and do that now. I'm not computer, sewing machine. See if I can get a better view for you guys. There we go. Okay, so I finished sewing that card pocket. So here is what it looks like. There's a top stitch on each of the folds and a base stitch on the sides. And it's basically, when you're finished, going to be this pocket here. So you can see on this one, the stitch, these are the stitches we just made on the folds. So that piece is done. Again, it should measure about 4.5 inches long. And I just wanted to let you guys know, I sent an email showing you pictures. You're gonna need this quilting foot next week. So those of you that are coming next week, make sure you have one. If you don't, you can go into the makerspace and use machines there because they have quilting foots there. So I just wanted to remind you, the reason we need that is because of the thickness. This wallet is so thick, you're not going to be able to sew it with your regular presser foot, and you need to have that quilting foot. So just wanted to let you guys know. Back to our card pocket. So now we're going to sew the card pocket to the lining. So we have a lining piece for our card pocket. So you're going to need to cut a 4.5 by 4.5 card pocket lining. You're going to need 2 of those because you also need a lining for the zipper. So here's my 4.5 by 4.5 zipper lining piece and card pocket piece. So I'm just going to take one of them. The other one is for my zipper. I don't need that right now. And I'm going to put that aside. And we're going to go ahead. You don't need any interfacing on it because it's just a lining piece. So I'm going to hold my card pocket facing me like this. This is the top of it and this is the bottom. And I'm going to place my lining on it, right sides together. And I'm going to match the top edges and pin them. And we're going to sew that top edge together. 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then I'm going to iron the seam open, fold the wrong sides together, and top stitch the folded edge down. So I'm going to go to my sewing machine and just do my 1/4 inch seam allowance right across the top. I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to pause the video and I'll come back when I'm done. So I finished stitching the lining to the card pocket and I pressed the seam open and then I just folded it back, wrong sides together. Now I'm going to do a top stitch on this folded edge here, 1/8 of an inch, to hold this piece down. So I'm going to do that. And then once I've done that, we're finished with the card pocket and you can put that aside and we'll start doing the zipper pocket. Hi, so I finished top stitching my card pocket. So it looks like this, and I have the lining piece on the back. And now I'm putting that aside. Now we're going to work on our zipper pocket, this portion of the wallet. So we need to trim our zipper down. You should have a zipper in your kit, and the zipper needs to be 4.5 inches. So 4.5 inches from this top edge here where your zipper pull is. So I'm going to measure 4.5 inches from here down. And I'm going to just mark it with my pencil. This side. And then I'm going to take my heavy duty scissor and I'm just going to cut. So just make sure your zipper is closed, obviously, or you'll lose your zipper and you just want to cut right across. You can throw that piece away. So now you're going to take your zipper tabs. So you should have cut out, according to your cuts page, there should be 1.5 by 1 zipper tabs times 2. So that means you should cut 2 of these pieces out. There's no interfacing with them. There's 2 little pieces. And we're going to fold them in half, right sides together, and just finger press. And you're going to match that raw edge to the raw edge of the zipper, just like this. The folded edge should be right here, facing in to the zipper. And you're just going to pin the edge of that tab to the edge of the zipper. And same with the other one, you're going to do the other side. Fold it in half. And it's a little tricky because the tape is kind of popping out like that. So if you open your zipper a little, it's easier to get it closed. Again, the fold needs to be facing in, and the raw edge is against the raw edge of the zipper. So we're just trying to finish the zipper. So we're going to have this nice finish with these edges. So I'm going to go to the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch right along this folded edge, just like 1/8 of an inch from the edge on both of them to attach them to the zipper like that. So I'm going to go do that now and then I'll come back. Okay, so I finished sewing the tabs to my zipper. Be careful that you don't sew on top of your metal stoppers. So you know that. So now I'm just going to trim off the excess zipper tape under here. I'm trimming off about 1/4 inch just to reduce some of the bulk, because this wallet is going to get very thick. So now that I've done that, now the next step is to take our zipper and we are going to lay this piece. We're going to start assembling this zipper pocket. So the zipper's prepped. Now we're going to make the pocket. So you take this up. This is the upper zipper panel. And it is listed on your fabric cuts. Zipper panel upper. It's 4.5 by 1.5, and it has interfacing 3.5 by 1.5. So apply your interfacing. It's going to look like this, centered on it with these 2 edges, not with no interfacing. You're going to lay that on top of your zipper, right sides together. So I'm matching the upper edges, this top edge. So it looks like this. And I'm going to pin that. And then I'm going to go to the sewing machine with my zipper foot. And I'm going to sew 1/4 inch from the edge. So this is pretty much just like sewing in a zipper, but it's a little different because we're not putting it into a skirt or an opening. We're just creating a panel. So I'm going to go to my sewing machine So when I open it up, it's going to look like this. So at my sewing machine, I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance right here along the edge. And I'm going to use my zipper foot so that I can get over the tape. And then when I get to the zipper pull here, I might have to stop and lift my needle out a little bit and move my zipper back like this, just like when we sew in a zipper. And then all the way up here, finish your 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then when I'm done, I'm going to go to the ironing board and I'm going to press my seam open, and I'm going to fold this edge back and press it down. And then I'm going to top stitch this edge down. So we're basically slowly creating our zipper pocket. So again, I'm going to go use my zipper foot and stitch a 1/4 inch seam allowance along the edge here. And then I'm going to iron the seams open, fold this back, and top stitch down. So I'm going to pause it now and I'll come back when I'm finished. So here I am, I sewed this upper panel to the zipper and I pressed the seams open and folded it back just like this. Now I'm going to top stitch this folded edge right here so that it lays nice and flat. I'm going to go do that now and then I'll come back. All right, so I finished top stitching my zipper right there on this edge here. And so now we're going to finish do the other steps. So you're going to take your upper actually it's called the lower panel. So on my sheet, I'm going to take the zipper lower panel. It says cut 2. It's 4.5 by 3. So you take your 4.5 by 3 lower zipper panel, and you're going to apply your interfacing, 3.5 by 3 inch interfacing to it. And this is one of the lower panels. You're going to have a second lower panel with no interfacing. So first we take this panel and you put it interfacing side down like this. And then you take your zipper panel and you lay it right side down on top. You want to match this top edge right here. Then you take the lining panel. This is your other 3.5. It's 4.5 by 3 inches. It's your second zipper panel, lower zipper panel. Sorry, the panels get a little confusing. I'm hoping that the paperwork's helping. Then you're going to lay this on top. So it's sandwiched together with 3 layers. There should be 3 layers. And you're going to use your clips. If you can get the pins through it, my fabric's pretty thin, so I think I could actually get the pins through. But if your fabric's a little thicker, you might need to use the clips like this. So this fabric is super thin, so I'm just gonna try using pins. We're basically just finishing the other side of the zipper. And we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance. We're doing the same thing we did on that first side. You're going to use your zipper foot. See the clip right here. You use your zipper foot and you'll put your needle in here and you'll sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down. You'll probably have to stop and lift your presser foot and move your zipper out of the way and finish at the end. When you're done sewing that 1/4 inch seam allowance there, then you'll press your seams open. And I'll come back after I've sewn that and I'll show you the next step. Okay, so I finished sewing this lower panel. So there's 2 lower panels, an interior and a lining. So this panel was down first, and then my zipper in between, and then the lining. and I pressed it. So after I sewed it down into the zipper, I pressed this open, and then I folded it back and I pressed again. So these two pieces should be folded onto each other, wrong sides together. So you should have, it should be nice and clean on the inside, and you don't want this lining to get caught in your zipper. So you want to make sure it's pressed out and flat like this. And now we're going to top stitch this edge. So the top stitch is going to hold the lining in place, and it's going to match the other side. So it looks really nice. So I'm going to go do that right now. All right, so I finished top stitching that bottom edge right there. So now it looks like this. It's starting to really come together. Just like that. So the next step is to lay your zipper down like this, and then you take that 4.5 by 4.5 piece on your cut sheet. You cut two 4.5 by 4.5 pieces. One was your card pocket lining that we used on this guy right here. And now the other one we're going to use for our zipper lining. So this is the card pocket and zipper lining. So you're going to take that and lay it right sides together over your zipper panel, zipper pocket, and the top edge you're going to pin or clip depending on the thickness. And then you're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance along this top edge. After you sew that 1/4 inch seam allowance along the top edge only, just this top edge, then you're going to iron the seam open and fold the wrong sides together and top stitch on top of the fold, like we've been doing, like we did with the card pocket. I'm just trying to make sure I have this lined up. So I'm going to go to the sewing machine right now and do my 1/4 inch seam here at the top, press it open, fold it back, and then top stitch that top edge. And then we have one more step, and then we're done for today. And we'll finish the rest next week. So hang on while I go sew this, and I'll be right back. Hi, so I just wanted to show you, I attached that 4.5 by 4.5 lining piece to the top, pressed the seam open, folded it back, and now I'm going to top stitch along the top of the fold, just like we did with the card pocket. We have a lining here that we attached and top stitched the top. So now I'm going to do the same thing on this one, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I finished my top stitch right here along this top edge. And now the final step for today is a base stitch along the sides here, this side, the bottom, and the other side, just like this, a 1/4 inch from the edge. And it's to hold the lining together to the pocket. So you're gonna baste, when I say baste, I mean just stitch with your sewing machine, the 1/4 inch from the edge all the way around like this. I'm going to go do that, and then I'll be right back. So I finished sewing along the edges here. So my lining is now attached. When I open my zipper, I have this nice coin pocket created. So that's it for today. We have our coin pocket and our card pockets created. Should be like this, and this one like this. And we'll finish the rest at our next session. At the next session, so for today, you had oops. So today, I highlighted all the things that I wanted you to have prepared. So for next week, you'll need to have everything on the sheet cut and all the interfacing applied. So that would be great if you had everything cut, and interfacing applied, then we'll be able to move a lot faster. I already have all mine ready to go. This is the button flap in fabric A. This is the interior panel 1, fabric A, and then I have 2 exterior panels, fabric A. One has interfacing on it, 8 inches by 4 inches, and the other one doesn't. So you should have those ready to go for next week. We will attach the, oh, and then there's also another interior panel out of fabric B that you need to have as well. I don't have that with me right here, but you'll need to have a 9 by 4.5 interior panel for these guys in the fabric B is ready as well. And then we'll assemble it at our next session and do our snap. You'll need to have your snap, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. So make sure that you have a quilting foot. If you don't, you'll have to finish assembling your pieces at the makerspace. So that right now you can make an appointment in the makerspace and do that to come in and plan to finish it. So if you don't have a quilting foot, you might, depending on your fabric width, how thick your fabric is, you might not need it. When I was making this one, I did need it because I used this denim fabric, and my quilting like cotton fabric was kind of, it wasn't thick, but it was a good one. So I definitely needed it. This particular fabric that I'm using this time, I might not need it. It's super thin. So super thin cotton fabric, it's almost like see-through. So I might not need it, but just in case, be prepared. That's it. I'm Amy. I'm your instructor, and I'll see you next week.